the United States of America under the judgment of the one and only true God. Luke 19, verses 41 through 44, we read, "When Jesus approached Jerusalem, he saw the city, and he wept over it, saying, 'If you had known in this day, even you, the things which make for peace, but now they have been hidden from your eyes. For the days will come upon you when your enemies will throw up a barricade against you, and surround you and hem you in on every side, and they will level you to the ground, and your children within you, and they will not leave in you one stone upon another, because you did not recognize the time of your visitation.'" Of all the nations upon the earth, with the single exception of the nation of Israel, the nation that's received the greatest blessings of the one and only true God, Jesus Christ, who we call the Messiah of Israel, the one and only true God, our federal government, has now declared that the Creator of heaven and earth and his 10 Commandments illegal. Our federal government has now promoted legislation stating that the mention of God in the way of public prayer in our institutions illegal. Our federal government has now declared that premeditated murder, abortion, legal. In excess of 50 million innocent and totally helpless children slaughtered wholesale, making the genocide of Adolf Hitler look like it was child's play. And to think each and every one of these 50 million plus innocent, helpless children were each individually created in the very image of God. The abomination of Sodom and Gomorrah, homosexuality is not only tolerated and promoted, but it's now made perfectly legal, and it's illegal to speak against the sin of homosexuality, the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah. For the first time in U.S. history, our country is now headed by a Muslim. Yes, a Muslim. A recent CNN poll showed that some 60 million Americans now believe that our sitting president is, yes, a Muslim. And what's even more alarming, he was actually elected by the greater majority of the American citizenship to that very position. Think about it. The most powerful and influential Muslim in the entire world, no, not in some distant Arab world country, but right now sitting in the Oval Office. A sitting president who regularly implements a fundamental Islamic teaching called taqiyya, where according to the Quran, Muslims are encouraged to lie to the infidels, to non-Muslims, in order to advance the greater cause of Islam. A sitting president who has since taking office opened the floodgates of every U.S. institution to the promotion of Islamic rights, to include spending some billions of taxpayer dollars to promote and advance the propagation and spreading of Islam in the United States of America. A sitting president who is right now forcing the Israeli government to give up the only city on the face of the earth that the one and only true God has ever claimed to be his own, Jerusalem, or else face U.S. retribution by the cutting off of desperately needed American financial support to Israel, to the only remaining democratic form of government in the whole of the Middle East. A sitting president who has implemented official policy under the U.S. Department of Homeland Security that now persecutes evangelical Christians, now considered by the state as a threat to both national and international security, where evangelical Christians, non-Muslims, are now to be considered as potential domestic terrorists because of their Judeo-Christian biblical views that have been stringently adhered to since the very foundation of these United States of America. A sitting president who, as commander-in-chief of our military, used his puppets, the generals and admirals in the Pentagon, to deceive the American public in conveying to the press that the threatened, not the actual, but the threatened burning of the Quran by Pastor Terry Jones in Gainesville, Florida, would jeopardize the lives of American troops abroad. Only then to authorize the actual burning of the Christian Bible in Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia. Is it any wonder that the United States of America is falling apart at the seams? The judgment of the one and only true God has already broken upon the United States of America, a nation that now believes and legally promotes one of the greatest violations of the Ten Commandments, idolatry, in exalting another God above and beyond the one and only true God, Jesus, who we call Christ. Where we as Americans now hold reserved front row seats in witnessing the righteous judgments of the one and only true God breaking out on every side of our American fabric. Judgments that will only increase in scope in both speed and severity with the simple passing of time. Think about it. A national debt, $13.5 trillion from greed and covetousness, breaking the commandments of God. The U.S., who borrowed recently $800 billion from China and an additional $800 billion from the earthquake, tsunami, radioactive meltdown-stricken Japan, only to have depleted this $1.6 trillion soon after receiving it. The innocent blood of 50 million plus innocent lives now saturated on American soil. The exalting and promoting of another God, Allah, idolatry, coming from, of all places, the White House. Need we be reminded of 9/11, the Gulf oil spill, the so-called natural disasters coming upon our nation like never before, floods, tornadoes, wildfires, earthquakes, the list goes on. The corrupting of our Judeo-Christian legal system, both federally and on state levels, that are very much in diametric opposition to what our founding fathers, our God-fearing founding fathers, had instituted in the United States Constitution. The instability of the price of Middle Eastern oil coming into the United States. The increase of wars and potential wars that America now faces on so many fronts, we can't even properly track the number of unprecedented threats that are coming upon U.S. soil from all over the world. The list easily goes on, too numerous to state at this point. Can we, as God-fearing Americans, read the writing on the wall? The very same righteous judgments of the one and only true God, the God of Israel, Jesus the Christ, the judgments of God Almighty that fell upon his very own people because of their turning away from their own God. Luke 19, verses 41 through 44, brought into contemporary terms. And when Jesus approached Jerusalem, or Washington, D.C., he saw the city, and he wept over it, saying, "If you had known in this day, even you, the things which make for peace, but now they have been hidden from your eyes. For the days will come upon you when your enemies, Islam, natural catastrophes, the collapse of the U.S. economy, the disintegration of our very American civilization, they will all be thrown up as a barricade against you and surround you and hem you in on every side. And they will level you to the ground and your children within you. And they will not leave in you one stone upon another, because you did not recognize the United States of America. You did not recognize the time of your visitation." The same Antichrist spirit that was upon a former government leader in the times of Christ, King Herod, whom Jesus called a fox. This fox who ordered the legal, authorized, killing of John the Baptist, and only then to further his Antichrist tirade agenda by seeking the very death of God, Jesus Christ, as well as destroying his teachings from this Jew from Nazareth that people called Jesus, who just so happened to be God, the one and only true God, walking around in flesh in an attempt at saving his people before it was too late. This same spirit is upon our sitting president in the United States of America. Jeremiah chapter 51 verse 57 reads, I, the Lord, will make your princes and your wise men drunk, her governors, her prefects, her mighty men, that they may sleep a perpetual sleep and not wake up, declares the King, whose name is the Lord of hosts. America, are you willing to recognize that one of the severest forms of God's righteous judgments is spiritual blindness or a sleep-like death state that is coming in the form of judgments and that will remain hidden from our eyes due to the hardening and backslidings of our hearts for having turned against the one and only true God? This same spiritual blindness or sleep that won't be recognized until after they have erupted, as it was in the days of Noah. And by then, it will have proven to be too late, because we didn't recognize the day of our visitation. God bless you.